Since they were kids, Max and On have spent all their time together, and eventually they become a couple. One night, they're drinking a lot while still in the car and end up having an accident that kills On. Max is sentenced to prison for involuntary manslaughter, and since he's the son of a millionaire family, he quickly becomes a target in prison. He pays for protection by using money that his grandmother Victoria brings him inside books by bribing the cops. When he runs out of money, the other prisoners start beating Max up every day. One evening they throw him in a laundry machine for 16 minutes. This incident makes Max think that it can't get worse than this, and he decides to enjoy life even in prison. He starts training a lot and getting in fights that earn him some money and the respect of the other convicts. After 3 years in prison, Max is released early for good behavior. His father Raphael comes to pick him up and complains because Max never received him when he tried to visit him. As planes fly above them faster than usual, Raphael explains he was the one who appealed for Max's release. It turns out there's a big war coming, so the entire family has been taken to a special bunker only for rich people. At first Max refuses to go anywhere with his father, but he changes his mind when he hears that Anne's family is in the bunker too. On their way there, Raphael says that he heard about the bunker from a colonel, and it's all top secret, including the location. The richest families received an invitation that took them to a website where they watched a video from Minerva, who explained the details. Millions of euros were invested in this bunker called Kimera. During the ride, Raphael and Max notice that they're crowded with people trying to get away. They make it to their helicopter as they hear an announcement that says private flights are forbidden from now on, but Raphael forces them to fly anyway. The bunker is hidden 900 feet below a lake, so the duo has to take an elevator down. There are 3 platforms with 45 family units and the highest tech and security. Max and Raphael are asked to leave their personal items in the deposit box, including their phones, so the GPS can't be tracked. They are given special suits to protect them from radiation and a bracelet that monitors their vital signs. The receptionist scans their hands since all the doors are opened by biometric authentication. Every room has an AI named Roxanne that changes the window views. Soon Max reunites with his family and learns that Victoria has brought her nurse because she's going through chemotherapy. On the news, reporters talk about escalating political tension and possible attacks. In the dining room, Max finds Anne's father Guillermo and apologizes for what he did. Guillermo accepts the apology, but Anne's sister Asia is still angry. Her mother died 6 months after, and Asia claims she died of grief, but Guillermo says it was an accident. He introduces Max's family to his new wife Mimi, and invites Max's family to dine with him. The restaurant is a buffet, and Victoria is offended by the idea of having to serve herself. She's about to send out her nurse, but Guillermo convinces an employee to serve them by mentioning Victoria's cancer. Asia wants to know why Max fled the scene after the accident, and everyone scolds her for killing the mood. At that moment, Minerva enters the room and explains that the situation has gotten worse with multiple bombings. She reminds everyone to keep themselves busy to avoid getting depressed. In his apartment, Guillermo reveals he's still angry at Max, and he only behaved in public. It's also revealed that Mimi was his secret lover while his previous wife was still alive. Guillermo admits he married Mimi out of grief and desperation, but she's not the love of his life, and he liked her better as a mistress. At the gym, Max surprises Asia with Anne's phone, saying she should have Anne's last memories. Asia runs to her room to watch videos of her sister. At the bar, Guillermo has drunk too much and the bartender Terso refuses to give him more. Things get tense, so Raphael asks for 2 whiskeys for himself and shares one with Guillermo. Suddenly the whole bunker starts shaking. Lights flicker, and some bulbs even break. Window screens in every room announce an emergency as a rock blasts through the bar wall. The panicking crowd rushes to the dome, but Asia goes back to look for her father. In the bar, she finds Max helping Guillermo and Raphael out. The main corridor has already been sealed, so Terso guides the family to the elevator. After just a few seconds, the elevator fails and starts falling. Thankfully, the emergency brakes activate, and the elevator stops. The family takes a tunnel to the dome, where all the refugees are watching the news. It seems World War III has already begun. Minerva informs them that a nuclear bomb went off just a few miles from the bunker, explaining the shaking. The camera at the bunker entrance shows another explosion before the lights go out, and all the screens lose signal. A worried Minerva tells everyone to stay calm while she runs to the control room. While they wait, Raphael reveals that on the night of the accident, he found Max clinging to Juan's body. He was the one who told Max to run to save himself even though Max didn't want to. However, during the trial, Raphael told the truth because he wanted his son to take responsibility for his mistakes, and his testimony put him in prison. Max's mother Frida is angry to hear that her husband had a plan to save their kid, yet he betrayed him. Victoria says her daughter should have married someone better, only for Frida to call Victoria out for being a terrible mother. Frida even says that she never truly loved Raphael. She married him because she wanted to escape her home. Minerva returns and announces they are having trouble reaching the outside world, so they'll send Luca and Cindy above to check on the antennae. The screens broadcast the mission, showing the duo putting on hazmat suits before going out. There's a heat wave, ashes blowing everywhere, and the atmosphere is toxic. A burnt car has 2 charred bodies inside. The bridge has been destroyed and the forest on the other side is burning. The duo works fast to connect the new antenna, but the railing is burning hot and Luca's glove is caught on the railing. Cindy helps him pull it away and the duo rushes back inside. After they get decontaminated, the medical team checks on Luca and confirms that since his glove broke, he's been exposed to radiation. The cameras are turned off before Minerva tells the refugees that the situation outside is complicated. For now, they'll stay in the dome. Afterward, Minerva returns to the control room and celebrates with her team. It turns out there's no war and the outside world is fine. This is all a simulation to trick the rich people. A flashback shows how they planned everything, including the people running on the streets, the fake news clips, and the fake flying van. The bunker was built on a mobile mechanical platform that shook it to simulate the bombing, and The Rock had been hiding behind a wall. A famous director was hired to record all the fake footage with the best special effects, and Luca and Cindy were his chosen actors. In the present, Minerva's girlfriend Dr. Julia checks on Guillermo's injury. Asia goes to the bathroom to watch more of On's videos. At that moment she hears a weird noise and a person in pain while the lights flicker. A worried Asia rushes to the next stall and pounds on the locked door until it opens, only to discover Elena trying to self-delete. She holds Elena up to help her while yelling for help. Soon Terso arrives and cuts the cable to bring the body down. Then Asia starts CPR while Terso calls Julia. The medical team quickly revives Elena, who is angry at them for saving her. Eventually Minerva announces that people are allowed to return to their rooms. Julia approaches Minerva in private and tells her that the refugees' mental health is declining fast, but Minerva reminds her that this is what she signed up for. The director is using movie makeup to make Luca look burned. In the bedroom, Raphael and Frida discuss her confession. Frida wants a divorce, but Raphael truly loves her and wants to try again. Frida admits she's been having an affair with her yoga teacher and leaves to stay with her mother. Raphael is freaking out and goes to the dining room to ask for food. Terso tries to explain that the kitchen is closed because food must be rationed, but this only makes Raphael angrier. He starts searching the buffet trays and eating leftovers. Guard Jocko arrives and tases Raphael to force him to stop. Max is upset by this and Jocko tries to tase him too, but Max punches him first and steals the taser. When Jocko tries to take it back, Max easily overpowers him and tells Raphael to grab all the food he wants. Raphael is scared and tries to calm his son down while more guards show up. However, Minerva tells the guards to let Max and Raphael go. In the morning, Guillermo and Mimi start arguing again since Guillermo insists their relationship was better as an affair. Talking about the old times reminds them of their passion, and they end up getting naughty. Meanwhile, Asia is still watching On's videos on her phone and gets a bit hot and bothered when she finds a naughty video of Mac. Suddenly some guards come to ask Mimi for her blood type and take her away. Asia asks for an explanation but they refuse to answer. While Asia waits outside the infirmary, she's approached by Mac, who asks for the phone back. However, Asia claims that she burned the SIM card because the memories were too painful. In the infirmary, Julia explains to Mimi and other refugees that they need blood transfusion to save Luca. In the other room, the donors can see Luca's burned body. Supposedly Julia is operating on him, and it's not going well. Luca even pretends to have a seizure. After the blood is taken, the donors are released and they start telling everyone what they saw, causing more fear and distress. Asia returns to her room and watches one more video before throwing the phone in the trash. The team celebrates another successful trick, yet Julia is having a panic attack. Minerva tries to calm her down with kisses, but Julia wants to leave because she thinks that what they're doing to these people is torture. An argument ensues as Minerva blocks Julia on the bridge. Minerva's brother Ciro shows up and offers some medicine, but Julia slaps his hand. In return, Ciro pushes Julia off the bridge, killing her. A flashback shows that Guillermo was born in an extremely rich family, and when he turned 20, He expanded their business and made them even more money. Minerva hated the 1% and convinced her team that they couldn't fight capitalism, only join it. In the present, some employees find Julia's body, so Ciro and Minerva have to pretend to be surprised. Ciro claims he's checked the security footage and Julia self-deleted during a panic attack. A suspicious staff member asks to see the footage, so Ciro shows the whole team a fake video of Julia jumping. Later the refugees are called to an emergency meeting. Minerva informs them that Luca has died of radiation poisoning and Julia has self-deleted because of mental health issues. The bunker is put on indefinite lockdown, and food will be rationed, so Minerva calls Raphael out in front of everyone for trying to steal more food. She also scolds Max for his violence and reminds them that breaking the rules endangers everyone in the bunker. Minerva tells Max she wants the taser he stole back. Mimi is upset after hearing about the deaths and Guillermo mentions that he used to look at old photos when he was nervous, which he can't do here. Hearing this, Asia regrets throwing the phone away, so she convinces Terso to take her to the compactors by claiming she accidentally dropped a bracelet. In the meantime, Ciro watches Guillermo and Mimi getting naughty. A flashback shows the team discussing how they'd explain these people's disappearances. Minerva explained they'd make them prepare a goodbye message that would be sent after entering the bunker. The messages show the rich people saying they were going on a vacation for health reasons to a remote location with no signal, so contact was impossible. The phones were taken from the refugees so the Roxanne AI could handle their social media. In fact, Roxanne has been studying them all along to learn every detail about their lives and become able to perfectly act like them. Ciro developed Roxanne for years and used it to create Julia's fake death video. Currently Guillermo's phone keeps getting calls from his right hand Oswaldo, so Roxanne sends him a message pretending to be Guillermo asking him to stop calling. In the compactors, bags keep falling on Asia and Terso during their search. Soon the compactors are activated and are about to crush them, but luckily Asia finds the phone and they get out just in time. Terso saw the phone and now demands the truth, so Asia explains that those are her sister's last memories and Terso agrees to keep the secret. Since Max hasn't returned the taser, Minerva sends Jocko to get it back. Then she talks to Ciro, who apologizes for what he did and swears that he's taking his medication. They activate Julia's virtual clone made by Roxanne, so now Minerva can feel better by talking to her. In the gym, Max tells Jocko that he lost the taser. Jocko doesn't believe him and threatens to isolate Max in the basement. Max confirms he has the taser but refuses to hand it over, challenging Jocko to get it back. A vicious fight begins and at first Jocko can keep up, but soon Max overpowers him and starts smashing his face on a bench. Jocko responds by hitting Max with a bat and dislocates his arm. Another guard comes in to stop them and Max uses the distraction to knock Jocko out with a punch. Asia passes by and sees Max covered in blood, so she rushes to get his arm back in place. Jocko is taken to the infirmary and for a few seconds he appears to be dead, but they manage to revive him. However, he's in a coma. Without Julia they lack a medical expert, so an argument ensues over what to do. Either a doctor should be brought in, or Jocko should be taken to a hospital outside. Minerva remembers that Asia is a medical student, and brings her to the infirmary. Asia gives Jocko an injection of the right medicine, and he manages to wake up. Afterward Minerva talks to Max and tells him that he killed Jocko, but they revived him. She takes the taser back and uses it on Max to remind him to behave. Meanwhile Guillermo's phone keeps getting calls from Oswaldo. Ciro watches the last message in which Oswaldo says he's finally got the news they've been waiting for the past 20 years. In one of the tunnels, a staff member takes a group of refugees to the highest point in the bunker. This group of people has been chosen because they can speak various languages, so they're asked to use some radios to try to get in contact with the outside world. Victoria is bored and wants her daughter to get a new husband, so she makes Frida pretend she's heard a message in French. The man who speaks French comes over to help and the team is confused because the radios aren't even connected. They assume Victoria is hearing things because of her cancer medication. Victoria then uses the chance to flirt with Mimi, who is still working with the radio. Suddenly Mimi hears a message from a civilian plane asking to land, which is another trick from the staff. The plane doesn't land on time and ends up crashing, so the refugees think they're listening to a bunch of people die. Other refugees have started a support group with the director pretending to be a therapist. Raphael admits he almost fell in love with Roxanne because the AI kept him company. Guillermo regrets not paying for his best friends not to come with him, and assures Raphael that he isn't alone. Since Raphael agreed to testify against Max, he became Guillermo's friend too. Later in the pool, Guillermo tells Raphael that he needs to forget about Frida and get a new lover. He approaches staff member Ingrid and asks her to have a drink with them. In the spa, the men run into Elena, and Guillermo invites her too. Aya checks on Max's injuries, and she keeps reminding him of Anne. Being so close makes Aya uncomfortable, so she runs away before she finishes the stitches. Max follows her and demands an explanation, so Aya says he's the monster that destroyed her life and describes how much she hates him, while she imagines kissing him. In the control room, the team watches another message from Oswaldo. He's so desperate to contact Guillermo that he threatens to call an ambassador for help. Minerva forces Roxanne to create a virtual replica of Guillermo to deal with this, ignoring Ciro when he says the AI doesn't have enough information on him yet. A flashback shows the first time the team tried the software by talking to Julia and her replica at the same time. They were unable to tell who the real one was. The team makes the fake Guillermo talk to Oswaldo, who explains that they're on the brink of buying a company that Guillermo has been chasing for nearly 2 decades. However, the other company's CEO will only negotiate with Guillermo in person, so Ciro makes fake Guillermo say he wants to sell all his companies instead of buying new ones and help poor people with the money. Oswaldo refuses to accept that, so he agrees he'll try to convince the CEO to negotiate with him instead. He also mentions that the other CEO will only sell if BJ3 is part of the deal. The team can't find that term anywhere on the internet, so they end the call. Afterwards, Ciro uses all of Roxanne's power to find out what BJ3 is. Minerva is panicking with worry and keeps thinking about her childhood. Ciro was often harassed at school and Minerva had to protect him. One day when they went home, they found a note from their mother apologizing for abandoning them. The siblings were sent to an orphanage and a doctor noticed that Ciro had a behavioral disorder, so he wanted to split them. To stop him, the siblings transformed his car into an aquarium. Both of them studied hard to get scholarships and college degrees that would get them out of poverty. Minerva started to work for a construction company, and seeing the profits they made, she realized that the rich only got richer while the employees continued to struggle. That was when she came up with the idea of the bunker. She could make the richest people in Europe disappear and get their money at the same time. Roxanne would make perfect copies of them and the team would use those digital clones to make business. In the present, Roxanne discovers that BJ3 is one of On's beloved horses. It comes from a line of champions and is worth at least 40 million euros. When Oswaldo calls again, the team makes fake Guillermo give him permission to sell the horse. Now Oswaldo needs the horse's documents, which are in the house safe. Since the team doesn't have the combination, fake Guillermo asks Oswaldo to call him the next day from the house so they can open the safe together. Meanwhile, Guillermo and Raphael are in the bar with Ingrid and Elena. Minerva contacts Ingrid through her earpiece and tells her to get Guillermo's safe combination. At the gym, Max discovers that Jaco's earpiece fell during the fight. He puts it on and hears his father's conversation, making him realize they're being spied on. The team immediately catches on and mutes it. Cindy is sent to take the earpiece from him. She notices his wound is bleeding and drags him to the infirmary. At the same time, Asia is checking on Jaco, who keeps flirting with her. When Max comes in, he completely ignores Asia as she leaves. Afterward, Max drinks the disinfecting alcohol. He asks Cindy where the microphones are, but she claims she doesn't know. Asia bumps into Terso and asks for a comforting hug since she's hurt by Max's indifference. Minerva finds this amusing since Terso was assigned to keep an eye on her and isn't a real friend. Victoria and Frida bump into Mimi, who isn't feeling well. She asks if they've seen Guillermo, but he's been missing for a while. At the bar, Ingrid keeps filling Guillermo's glass with alcohol and shares a sob story about her mother's death before flirting with him. Raphael and Elena are also chatting and getting to bond over their failed marriages. At that moment, Max enters the bar because he's worried after having heard his father's voice on the earpiece. Minerva gets angry since he's interrupting Ingrid, so she sends Cindy to get him out. However, Guillermo is too annoyed by Max's presence and quickly leaves. Ingrid immediately follows him and reveals she's hidden some mini alcohol bottles in her clothes, so she takes him to an office to keep drinking. This is seen by Frida, who rushes back to inform Mimi. On the cameras, Minerva sees that Mimi is going after her husband, so she tells Ingrid to hurry up. To slow Mimi down, Minerva stops the elevator with her inside. Mimi is so desperate that she opens the doors with her bare hands and climbs out. Meanwhile, Ingrid plays a game with Guillermo, saying she can always tell if he's lying. She makes him write the answers to her questions on a notepad while answering aloud, and Minerva tells her what he wrote through the earpiece to confirm if he said the same thing he wrote down. After a few silly questions, she asks for the safe combination and Guillermo refuses to write it down, but he does say the real number aloud. When Guillermo and Ingrid are about to kiss, Mimi breaks the lock with a fire extinguisher. She goes on a rant about how he manipulated her through the years and breaks up with him. Guillermo returns to his apartment and finds Asia watching On's videos. He takes the phone from her and rushes to find Max to start punching him. He says that Max is making things worse by bringing back the past and confirms that Asia's mother self-deleted out of grief. Guillermo keeps beating Max up but stops when Frida breaks a vase on his head. She sends his son away and Asia sees him bleeding on his way out. Then Frida starts yelling at Guillermo, who apologizes before they hug. Suddenly they kiss, revealing they've been having an affair for over 20 years. Now they're both single. Frida wants to be a proper couple. At the gym, Asia apologizes to Max for getting caught by Guillermo. However, Max is furious and starts ranting, saying her family doesn't know how to move on and that he really hates her. After he leaves, Asia has a breakdown because she has to finally accept that she likes Max. The next day, Oswaldo makes it out Guillermo's house and calls his phone, so the fake Guillermo picks up. Oswaldo asks for the 8-digit combination and Minerva panics because they only have 7. However, Oswaldo recognizes the code is On's birthday and finishes it himself. Oswaldo successfully gets the documents from the safe and fake Guillermo tells him to close the deal quickly because he has another job for him. It turns out that all these years Minerva and Ciro have been opening fake but profitable startup companies and they'll make Oswaldo buy them for good money. In the bathroom, Max steals some scissors by hiding them in his pants while looking away from the camera. Then he hides under bedsheets and tries to use the scissors to get his bracelet off to no avail. At that moment, Raphael comes back after spending the whole night drinking and getting dirty with Elena. He feels very guilty about it, but Max tells him he should forget about Frida and embrace this new relationship. Afterward, Max visits Minerva and says he thinks the microphones are on the bracelet. Minerva doesn't confirm it. Instead, she explains that extreme security measures are needed because sooner or later the guests will turn against each other. While they chat, Max pulls at a cable with his foot to make a laptop fall from the desk. Minerva rushes to pick it, and Max uses the distraction to steal a map that he hides in his clothes. In the spa, Frida and Guillermo discuss their relationship, which started when they were in school. Frida thinks she's different from Guillermo's other lovers and insists on a proper relationship. They end up getting naughty. Later, after Guillermo leaves, Ingrid comes to give Frida her massage. Frida mentions the bar incident and warns Ingrid to stay away from Guillermo. Meanwhile, Mimi wanders around the bunker while feeling very sick. She ends up taking the elevator to the dome and passes out. Moments later, she wakes up with even worse pain, yet she keeps going. Feeling like she's burning, Mimi takes some clothes off before taking the stairs to a glass door. She manages to pull it open and finds the control room. Mimi watches the cartoons on the screens and collapses. Soon the team sees Mimi on the cameras and rescues her to bring her to the infirmary. Asia is called to take care of her, but she explains she doesn't have enough training to make a diagnosis. Minerva tells her that Roxanne can do it. Mimi just needs to put together the symptoms and the vitals. Roxanne studies all the information and a blood sample to conclude that Mimi has kidney failure, which means she needs a dialysis machine. The bunker doesn't have one, so Roxanne offers some alternatives like a specific diet and medicine, although the chances of recovery are lower. Mimi asks Asia not to let Guillermo visit her because the stress is killing her. Sometime later, when Guillermo shows up, Asia doesn't let him in, but she does share that Mimi may die in 72 hours if the alternative treatment doesn't work. Then Guillermo goes to the bar for a drink and apologizes to Max before sharing what's happening to Mimi. Max promises to find a way to help and rushes to get Asia. He drags her to the bathroom with him, which is seen by Jocko. Once they're inside a stall, Max takes out some cards to communicate with Asia, telling her to play along because they're being spied on. Jocko is listening to their conversation, but Max is talking about their relationship while having the real chat on the card. He tells Asia that he found a hospital on the map and asked Minerva to send a team to retrieve a dialysis machine. However, Minerva refused to let anyone out, so now Max wants to go outside himself. Asia wants to protest, but Max reminds her to keep up the act, so instead she starts confessing her feelings for him. Then Max explains with more cards that he talked to Guillermo and that he wants to do this to make up for what he did to Anne. However, he needs her help. Max kisses his hand to make it sound like they're kissing before showing the cards with his plan. He wants to shut down the security system, and to do that they must disconnect Roxanne from the bunker since she can see everything. They'll pretend to be in a relationship so they can be late at night together in each other's rooms. When the duo leaves the bathroom, they have a sweet moment for the cameras, and Jaco gets very jealous. Later, Asia checks on Mimi and finds Victoria there. She says she can bring Mimi to her apartment and let her nurse take care of her. Mimi likes that idea, so they move her there. Once Victoria is left alone with Mimi, she shares a cigarette with her and even gives her one of her medicine patches. Both women take too much and enjoy the trip. However, when Mimi feels pain again, Victoria asks her nurse for a stronger dose. Eventually, the women end up getting naughty. In the meantime, Oswaldo calls Guillermo's phone and the digital copy picks up. Oswaldo is worried about these weird companies that Guillermo wants him to buy and thinks they should slow down. Fake Guillermo explains he doesn't want to be careful in life anymore and convinces Oswaldo to keep on buying. Max returns to his room and asks Raphael not to ask questions when Asia comes by later. Raphael is moved by this trust and decides to make a confession. It turns out he testified against his own son because Guillermo threatened to kill Max. Raphael explains to an angry Max that he stayed friends with Guillermo after that because he couldn't fault a father for such behavior after losing a child. Max finally understands his father and forgives him for sending him to jail. Afterward, Raphael goes looking for Elena and kisses her, finally ready to start over. At the gym, Guillermo and Frida play basketball while discussing their relationship again. Guillermo announces he doesn't want to go steady with her because his priorities are his daughter and his friendship with Raphael. Frida kisses him and says this will be the last time they'll be together unless he changes his mind. Afterward, Guillermo talks to Raphael. He shares that after his wife's death, the cops brought her purse, but he didn't dare to open it until a few weeks ago. When Guillermo charged her phone, he discovered that the last person she called before self-deleting had been Raphael, so he wants to know why. Raphael explains she called him to assure him that she didn't hold any grudge against him or Max. In Max's bedroom, he and Asia cover Roxanne's camera with a jacket. Then they tie speakers to their bracelets using surgical tape. The speakers play music so the bracelets won't pick up their conversation. They agree to work together to leave the bunker, and Asia uses the chance to apologize to Max for how she's been treating him. Max explains he's been looking around the bunker and has found a hidden emergency exit sign. It appears to be a staircase in the ceiling. Asia says she knows how to make a bomb, so she'll provide a distraction. First, they need to disconnect Roxanne, so he wants to find a way to drill a wall and cut a bunch of cables. Max leaves to investigate and tells Asia she can stay in his room. Asia picks one of Max's shirts and gets into his bed to sniff his pillow. She's so excited that she gets naughty with her hand. At the same time, Frida gets naughty with Jaco in a place where Guillermo can see them just to make him jealous. In the meantime, Oswaldo has arrived at the office of the fake company. Moments later, he calls Guillermo to tell him that someone has already made an offer for the company, which is another trick by Minerva to make him pay more. When Max returns to the room, he's brought some gym equipment and cutlery. He and Asia pretend to shower together and play music on the speakers again before they start breaking the wall with the tools. Fake Guillermo is about to tell Oswaldo to buy the company anyway, only for Max to cut some cables in the wall. This shuts down the system, and the call ends. Oswaldo stares at the word Roxanne appearing on his phone screen and tries calling Guillermo again, but he's sent to voicemail, so he decides to leave. Minerva and Ciro rush to reset Roxanne, and Asia tracks how long it takes while Max covers the hole in the wall. Roxanne is activated just in time to call Oswaldo, and fake Guillermo convinces him to stay one more night in the city. Oswaldo goes to the nearest hotel with a reservation made by fake Guillermo, which means Minerva already has a camera there. They keep sending him texts to stop him from sleeping and get him a reservation at a restaurant too. Meanwhile, Max goes to the security office and starts an argument with Jaco as a distraction so Asia can steal 2 earpieces. Jaco admits he's been getting naughty with Frida and Max pushes him against the wall, but Asia convinces him to leave before things escalate. Afterward, Max checks on his mother, only for Frida to admit she didn't visit him in jail because Guillermo is the love of her life, and she couldn't stand the idea of visiting the guy who caused her lover so much pain. A furious Max calls her selfish before leaving. Asia is in the middle of stealing things from the infirmary when Max finds her and asks for a hug, as he has a breakdown. The duo goes to Max's room and rests under the covers, bonding over their bad families and their need to start over. Max decides to tell Raphael about Frida and Guillermo, leaving him speechless. Next, Max removes his and Asia's bracelets while pretending they're getting naughty. Jocko informs Minerva of this, but she doesn't think it's a big deal if they only did it for their naughty time. Guillermo goes to check on Mimi and finds her in Victoria's arms. Mimi has no interest in talking to him, and Victoria mocks him, so Guillermo walks off. He finds Raphael and starts ranting about the situation, but Raphael interrupts him to ask him for a favor. He wants Guillermo to convince Frida to take Raphael back. Guillermo agrees, not knowing it's a trap. He drags Frida to the bathroom and tries to punish her for misbehaving, only for Frida to head at him. She announces that he doesn't control her anymore and takes charge of their naughty time. After pushing Guillermo to his knees, Frida opens the door and finds Raphael waiting for them. He reveals that he lied about the phone call. Guillermo's wife called him because she'd found out about all his affairs and wanted to know if her husband really loved her. Raphael said no, and Guillermo now blames him for her death. However, Raphael points out that she took different medicines for her depression, so the only one responsible for her death is Guillermo. Back to Oswaldo, he goes to the restaurant and sees Ingrid crying at another table with an actress pretending to be her mother. When she goes to the balcony, he follows her to offer some comfort. Ingrid invites him to a club, and while they're dancing, another staff member spikes Oswaldo's drink. They also play his favorite songs to keep him partying all night. Eventually, Oswaldo and Ingrid go to his hotel room, but when they're about to do the dirty, Ingrid gets an urgent call, and she has to leave. Afterward, Oswaldo tries to sleep, but he's interrupted by a call from fake Guillermo, who orders him to rush to the company and buy it at all costs. Oswaldo returns to the office, where the air conditioning isn't working. The heat, the exhaustion, and the hangover cause Oswaldo to quickly buy the company at 900 million euros just so he can finally go home. In the bunker, Asia blocks the sink on purpose and calls maintenance. When Terso shows up, Max captures him from behind and Asia puts him to sleep with an injection. Then she puts on Terso's uniform and carries him inside his cart. Using Terso's fingertips, Asia gains access to the maintenance room and steals everything she needs for the bomb. Moments later, Max and Asia cut the cables again and Roxanne is shut down. The duo then rushes to install the bomb in the storeroom and fill the main corridors with smoke from the fire extinguishers. Soon the bomb finally explodes and power goes out in the entire bunker. While everyone is confused in the smoke, Max releases the emergency stairs and Asia gives him some medicine to protect him from the radiation. Each of them puts on an earpiece and says a final goodbye before he leaves. Max goes up the stairs and Asia closes them again before the Roxanne timer is over. She rushes back to the room and reconnects the cables, which covers up her tracks right before Roxanne is back. At that moment, Jocko enters the room and finds Terso's hat. A closer look reveals Asia and Terso on the bed. Assuming the worst, Jocko takes out a gun and forces Asia to follow him. At the airport, Oswaldo is boarding a plane to go home. He notices a billboard with the actress who played Ingrid's mom. Getting worried, he checks Ingrid's fake social media profile only for the page to disappear. Searching for the name of the bar doesn't show any results either. Oswaldo concentrates and remembers seeing some documents in Guillermo's safe titled Kimera, so he searches for that to no avail. Finally realizing he's been manipulated, Oswaldo makes the plane turn back. Oswaldo rushes to the office of the new company and finds it empty. He calls Guillermo's number to tell him everything and asks about Kimera. He also asks for Guillermo's nickname for him in college. Since Roxanne doesn't have the answer, Oswaldo promises to call the police and hangs up. On the street, Oswaldo tries to call the cops. However, Ingrid suddenly pushes him and Luca catches him to break his neck before dropping him in front of a truck. Luca steals Oswaldo's phone and leaves, making the death look like an accident. Hearing the alarm, Victoria tries to wake Mimi up to no avail. The main computer receives a lack of vitals from Mimi's bracelet, so Minerva runs to get Asia, interrupting Jaco's interrogation. Asia notices the medicine patches and alcohol smell on Mimi's body and yells at everyone for not taking care of her. She tries her best to revive her, but it's too late. Mimi is dead. At the bunker's reception, Max startles the receptionist and puts her to sleep with an injection. Using her hand, he opens every door in his way. Minerva finally sees him on the cameras and sends Jocko after him. After Max puts on a hazmat suit, he gets ready to leave, only for Asia to contact him through the earpiece. She explains that Mimi is dead, so there's no need to go to the hospital anymore. However, Max wants to leave anyway because he wants to take charge of his life. Asia admits her feelings for him to try to stop him, but Max only promises to come for her if he survives. The last door opens and Max gets in the elevator as Jocko catches up to him. Jocko opens fire and damages the glass, but the elevator keeps going up and Max finally gets to escape to the outside world. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications.